Early this year, I went to this really interesting, that's really stuck with me, this decentralized social media workshop at Princeton. Shout out to Nathan Schneider. He was who got me in there at the last minute. But it was like Noster people, Activity Pub folks, me and Brian Newbold, who's like a core Blue Sky person. We were the only Blue Sky folks holding it down for App Protocol. It was an unconference. And one of the things that my table talked about at one point was, how do you actually fund all this? Some folks in Noster have gotten big money to run their stuff. Which wasn't at the, no one from Farcaster was there, but they got like, what, 180 million or something crazy like that. Blue Sky themselves, people always come for them, but they're like VC funded. You got the Social Web Foundation, they're like nonprofit. But, with Black Sky, for me, I was just like, I want to build something engaging and interesting, but I'm like, I'm not going to go broke doing it. I go back to mutual aid organizing. It's supposed to be, if it's for the community, here's the thing, I'm going to give it away for free and give it back to the community. But I don't want, unlike a charity, like I'm not trying to just, have the burden be on me. We all got to take a piece of this and make this work. So from the early days, like Black Sky was the first project to be, Black Sky is fiscally hosted by a nonprofit as of right now, open source collective. And so all of our funding stuff is transparent over there. So it's been donation focused, but honestly, like the donations only recently started spiking. What I think people are donating for is like, they appreciate the work and the stuff that I built, and there's been a bunch of more usage and stuff. But and at least for me personally, like I want that money to go to moderators, because I believe in paying for content moderation, because it's terrible work, like I mentioned. And most like Reddit mods do that for free. I think we should be able to have community moderators to get paid, kind of point blank period. The technical stuff and all that, that's something I'm trying to figure out separately, but there are opportunities. So I think I'm also probably one of the first feeds to like do something like a sponsored post. There was all these conversations about advertising, and the consensus has always been like, advertising isn't even possible on the network. And I disagree with that, because anything is possible if you just like, where there's a will, there's a way. You can hack something together. And I think it kind of depends on what you advertise. But long story short, I was just like, I want to get us past the conversation of, can we do this, to should we do this? So the way that I did that was like, I have like, when you view the Black Sky feed, any of the feeds now, and even I've started like host feeds for other people, randomly about like 0.1% of the time, sponsored posts will pop up in the feed, and it'll be for a donation to Black Sky. And I think that's like people may not want ads, but I'm like, what if you just did it like that? Like, what if the advertising business is impressions that lead to like people paying for something to another company? Why can't it just be like, hey, you're using this social media product that I built, ship in every once in a while. And like, it's in your face, like as you're using it. So that was kind of a thought process. I'm sure people will come up with other creative things. There's someone who's built a co-op, who I founded a co-op for their app protocol projects. Once upon a time, there was a project who got into Y Combinator. They ended up pivoting shortly after. But yeah, I think there's going to be interesting business models that come with that protocol, because there's also like an openness to experiment with that, and an understanding that like we have to find some way to sustain it all. And what that will be, I think we'll see how it all shakes out.
This is such a reoccurring theme that we have on our podcast. We talk a lot about like open source sustainability. How do people who work on open source tools or trying to build a business around them make money on that? It's interesting. I was at a unconference myself in LA several weeks ago for an independent research conference. It's like Ink and Switch, and basically people in the HCI space who aren't necessarily academic, but who are doing like computer science research. And funding was another conversation that came up. It's like, how do we make this effort sustainable? So a lot of parallels between what we're talking about here and what I'm hearing in other communities. And I think your approach to this is really interesting, is like thinking like creatively about how you can use the technology to sort of like self-sustain it. What is your sort of long-term plan here? I mean, do you want to turn this into a business or a nonprofit, or like, how are you thinking about like the organization around the technology? Because I mean, at some point, like scale does hit you and stuff does get expensive, and
Yeah. For me, the way I think of it is like, I want to just work on Black Sky full time. Like I want to get to that point. Like it's the thing. I spent so much time thinking about all the different problems and where it can go. And like, I feel like there's been much kind of hate and doubt that has happened. I mean, it happens with like any publicly visible project, both for like Black Sky and like App Protocol itself. And like, I kind of just want to like prove some people wrong and like build something that people really fall in love with. And that's already kind of happening. And so it's like, that's working. So, and that's with me doing it part-time, late nights. I have 2 hours. I'm on 2 hours of sleep right now. This on my second second world's strongest cup of coffee. And yeah, I would like to be able to get some rest and be able to work on things. It's been interesting. Like, for the longest, I got like, I've dealt with lots of like rejection for like larger funding. And so that's where I like leaned more into the grassroots. I'm like, if no one understands the thing that I'm building, the users understand. So, let's see if they can support. And that's been cool. Like that's gotten up to, I think right now that's around the estimate. Open Collective shows like an estimated annual budget that's like 30,000, 35,000 right now. But I'm like, I feel like that I want that to like cover the moderators, basically. And I can see the moderation queue as the network scales, that scaling. So as of right now, I'm kind of thinking of it there. But the other thing with the growth and the attention has been like, there's been angel investors who have reached out. So I'm starting to have those conversations. And I think there's a world where I get to just like work on the tooling behind, like stay working in the tooling and then building for like other devs and try to find sustainability there, and then keep the Black Sky community aspect, like that be its own thing that's not corrupted by any kind of funding that would come through. But there's a bunch of devs in the ecosystem. There is no tooling. We're all doing this from scratch, learning everything the hard way each time. And so that's something I'm kind of like looking forward to.
Yeah, the sponsored post idea seems really interesting to me. I feel like Blue Sky as a service and a protocol will start need to like having things where you can like say, oh, this is an ad. Cause like having a feed with a bunch of ads in it and you don't know they're ads seems wrong. So I do hope they add something there. But as you said, I could see big businesses happening around just like curating and putting feeds out there. It's a very new frontier.
Yeah, the thing is, it has lots of ways to opt out, right? So if someone's making a feed that maybe was popular and then there's ads in it, maybe you're a dev and you don't like that I built Black Sky and I started putting these donation posts in it. The code's open source, so you could just fork it, remove the sponsored post piece, or you could literally run it yourself. It's an environment variable to turn off the sponsored post. I think as long as people continue building that practice as well as giving people freedom of choice and a way to opt out at a protocol level, we won't run into the platform decay problem and the race to the bottom. I think that there are lots of mechanisms that prevent that kind of thing from happening. I do agree though. I can see fandoms trying to create feeds for their fandoms very easily. That's kind of already happening. I don't know where I stand on brand accounts. If someone like adds their like Black owned business into the Black Sky feed, then I'm pretty chill about that. But I'm very wary of like anything else. It was actually like the Hawaiian Punch has an account and is doing the like, quippy, dunk post that are funny, but I'm just like, I don't know that I want like, I remember when Threads launched and it was just like brand accounts talking to brand accounts. I just think that's like, I don't know, it gives me the ick. But I do think, yeah, there's lots of new opportunities. Because the other thing too is like, because it's an open protocol, you don't even need to build a whole separate app. Something that someone built was like, you could make a blog post on your blog, and then you could post the link to that as a Blue Sky post. And then you could put a component on your blog so that as people reply to the Blue Sky post, the replies show up on the blog page. And so from there, it's like when you just think about the different ways the content is just easily available. The content is just an open API. There's a fire hose. You could do all these crafty things. So I'm curious to see how people start incorporating the content from the network in other places that are not just like within the app. And obviously we haven't even talked about like other people, like people have built other apps. There's like Front Page. That's like a thing that's like the Reddit kind of for App Proto. Someone made a link in bio kind of app. There's Smoke Signal that's like RSVPs. And so yeah, there's all those things that are being built all without people having to create new accounts, and they can take their identity with them. Something I think of with Black Sky is like you can take your community with you because we're all like you're not creating new accounts and stuff. But then like, I don't know, maybe Netflix starts pulling in content like on a live stream or something as like, or Spotify recently launched like, I got invited to like a Lil Uzi Vert listening party that was like, I don't even know if he was in there. Like he spoke, but like it could have easily been like a pre-recorded thing because he just said one or two things and then had like dropped a couple in the chat, but it was just the music playing. But they could also easily just pull that as like, that could just have been a custom feed on the side, pulling from Blue Sky, and it would be really easy to do. So yeah, there's lots of possibilities.
This is all like super exciting, especially like the sort of like ingenuity of all the tooling that you've built for Black Sky. Andrew, all the stuff that you've done for Blue Sky, like there's there's this really interesting tooling. And the one question that it begs is how does Blue Sky, the company, maintain itself? And then is there risk to these communities based on Blue Sky's actual financial risk? So one of the questions that we sort of were thinking with you is like, what do you think about the life of Black Sky or this community sort of like outside of Blue Sky, the company? Do you think like the app protocol lives beyond them, or is it like, what does that look like?
Yeah, that's why I want to build Risky, which is that I want to build an alternative app protocol implementation for various different reasons. Again, I think Risky is probably one of the most developed or like active projects that is trying to pursue that. So that's like a cool opportunity, especially since a lot of the pushback on app protocol is that it's just one company building the protocol. And, while that is true, I mean, they accept like PRs to their core code base, but they are still like selective with it. They have rules around that, so I want to be able to build Risky and hold them accountable to building the protocol. And because if you only ever run their code, I don't really feel like you at least don't get the power without arguing semantics about things. You're not getting the power of decentralization because you're just going to always push whatever update that they have. And so you're just hosting a version of it, but you're not really, they could still change the protocol at a whim to whatever they want it to be. So I want to be able to hold them accountable to a protocol and be able to build that as an alternative. That also helps ensure the longevity of a community like Black Sky. I mean, today we without me building all that, like we could probably just host all our own infrastructure and like have a separate could host a front end client, like have probably don't even need the relay, like just have a PDS in the front end client and have that just be disconnected from everybody. So like that's possible today. And then, well, the one that's like, there's a couple of sticking points because there's stuff that they have not yet made available to protocol, like DMs, like the video transcriptions and DID PLC, which is the core identity service. That's all hosted by them. I think there's people building stuff to like export and backup stuff from the PLC directory, and the PLC directory that has like your keys. So yeah, like your cryptographic keys to control your account. So some people like trying to build that resiliency there. I would say like if it happened today, there's risk. That's how I've seen other people talk about it too. Like if Blue Sky went bad today, it's risk. If they did it like a year from now, hopefully that's like lessened. And then I think a couple years out, we should see a lot of stuff play out. Like, do people have the funding to keep working on these things and like build the alternatives and like have the support to make that happen? I think the protocol is kind of a dream right now. And then the closer we can get to making that dream reality, then I think we're good. It just has to last that long. And if they did run out of money kind of immediately, which I'd have a hard time imagining that happen, but if they did, we could rebuild. And I think the community around Black Sky has been so far that like there would be a bunch of people who would come along for that ride. It would obviously cause disruption. People would fall off, but I don't think it would be the end of it and like pack everything up, move on at that point.